My husband emptied our son's savings for his girlfriend. Then my 11-year-old turned the tables. The first sign something was different about my son wasn't the way he could make computers bend to his will. Though watching an 11-year-old debug code faster than most adults was certainly something to behold. No, the first real sign was the way Micah started watching people. It began that humid July morning when Gerald kissed my forehead goodbye, grabbed his coffee, and headed out for what he claimed was an early client meeting. Normal Tuesday routine. Nothing unusual, except for the way Micah's eyes followed his father from the kitchen doorway, those dark eyes that missed nothing, cataloging something I couldn't see. "Dad's cologne is different," he said quietly, not looking away from the window where Gerald's silver Honda was pulling out of our driveway. I laughed, ruffling his messy brown hair as I grabbed my nursing uniform from the back of the chair. "Maybe he's trying something new, honey. You know how your father is about his grooming." But Micah didn't smile. He just nodded slowly, filing away this piece of information like he was building some invisible database in that brilliant mind of his. That summer was supposed to be about normal things, pool days, video games, maybe teaching him to drive stick shift in the empty parking lot behind the grocery store. Instead, it became the summer I watched my quiet, thoughtful boy transform into something I didn't quite recognize. Something sharper. While I pulled double shifts at Metropolitan General, trying to pad our savings account for the family vacation Gerald kept promising, Micah spent his days in his room. Not sleeping or moping like most kids his age might do during summer break. Working. The soft clicking of keyboard keys became the soundtrack of our house, a constant rhythm that started at sunrise and didn't stop until well past dinner time. "What are you building up there?" I'd ask, bringing him sandwiches and trying to peer over his shoulder at the multiple monitors he'd somehow convinced Gerald to buy him for his birthday. "It's a game, Mama," he'd say, and his voice had this quality I'd never heard before, focused, determined, almost adult. "It's about finding your way through impossible places. About solving puzzles when everyone's lying to you." The way he said it made something cold settle in my stomach, but I pushed the feeling away. Micah had always been intense about his projects. When he was 8, he'd spent 3 months building an elaborate fort in our backyard, complete with pulleys and trapdoors. When he was 9, he taught himself Spanish in 6 weeks just because he wanted to understand the lyrics to a song he liked. This felt different, though. More personal. The game he was creating, something he called a prototype mixing maze logic with mythology and coding puzzles, seemed to consume him entirely. I'd find scratch paper covered in his careful handwriting scattered around his room, character backstories, level designs, what looked like complex mathematical equations that made my head spin just looking at them. "There's this character," he told me one evening as I was checking his room before bed, "called the Betrayer. He looks like he's helping you navigate the maze, but really he's leading you into traps. The only way to win is to figure out his pattern and use it against him." "Sounds complicated," I said, tucking his blanket around him, even though he was getting too old for it. "Not if you're paying attention to the right things." His voice was already getting drowsy, but there was something in it that made me pause. "People always tell you who they really are, Mama. You just have to know how to listen." It was around that same time that Micah started talking about the tech summer camp. Pacific Coast Innovation Academy, a prestigious program in California that combined advanced coding with entrepreneurship training. The kind of opportunity that could change a kid's entire trajectory. "It costs $4,000, he told me over breakfast one Saturday, sliding a printed web page across the table. "But I've been saving. I've got almost $3,000 in my account already." I stared at the numbers, both impressed and concerned. "Honey, that's a lot of money. How did you?" "Birthday money, Christmas money, the lawn mowing jobs around the neighborhood, that website I built for Mrs. Henderson's bakery." He ticked off each source on his fingers. "Plus I've been selling some of my old gaming equipment online. Dad, help me set up the PayPal account." Gerald looked up from his phone when Hattie started spending so much time on that thing, and smiled. Kid's got a head for business. Takes after his old man. But there was something off about Gerald's smile. Too bright, too quick. Like he was performing happiness rather than feeling it. Micah noticed it too. I could tell by the way his expression went carefully neutral, the way he folded the camp webpage and tucked it into his back pocket. I'm going to apply next week, he said. The deadline's August 15th. That's cutting it close, buddy, Gerald said, already looking back at his phone. Make sure you don't wait too long. Later that day, I found Micah in the backyard, sitting in the old tire swing Gerald had hung from our oak tree years ago. He wasn't swinging, just sitting there, staring at something on his phone screen. Everything okay? I asked, settling onto the porch steps nearby. Mama, he said slowly, do you think people can change who they are? Like, completely? The question caught me off guard. What do you mean, sweetheart? I mean, if someone's been one way your whole life and then suddenly they start acting totally different, does that mean they were always that other person underneath? Or did they actually change? I thought about it, watching the way the late afternoon sun caught the highlights in his hair, the same color as mine, not Gerald's. I think, I said carefully, that sometimes people hide parts of themselves. And sometimes situations bring out sides of them that were always there, but never had a reason to show. Micah nodded thoughtfully, still staring at his phone. That's what I thought too. Is this about your dad? I asked gently. For a long moment, he didn't answer. Then, he's been getting a lot of text messages lately, and they make him smile in a way that's different from how he smiles at us. The cold feeling in my stomach was back, stronger this time. Micah. It's okay, Mama. He looked up at me then, and I was startled by how old his eyes looked. I'm just collecting data. That's what good programmers do. We observe patterns before we draw conclusions. That night, after Gerald had gone to bed, I found myself standing in Micah's doorway again. He was still awake, still working, the glow from his monitors painting his face in blues and whites. Micah? I whispered. Yeah, that game you're making, the one with the betrayer character. What happens to him in the end? Micah's fingers paused over the keyboard. When he spoke, his voice was quiet but certain. He thinks he's won. He thinks he's outsmarted everyone and gotten away with everything. A pause. But he forgot that the player has been learning his patterns the whole time. And in the final level, the player uses everything the betrayer taught them to trap him in his own maze. And then what? Micah resumed typing, the soft clicks filling the silence. Then the player gets to decide what justice looks like. I should have paid more attention to that conversation. Should have asked more questions, pushed harder, demanded to know what he was really thinking. But I was tired from working double shifts and stressed about bills, and foolishly believing that whatever problems Gerald and I might be having, they were adult problems that didn't touch our son. I had no idea that while I was trying to protect Micah from the cracks forming in our marriage, he was already 3 steps ahead of all of us, building something that would change everything. The game was just the beginning. The morning everything unraveled started like any other. I was rushing around the kitchen, trying to get ready for another 12-hour shift, when Micah appeared in the doorway. But something was wrong with the picture. He wasn't holding his usual bowl of cereal or scrolling through coding tutorials on his tablet. Instead, he stood there perfectly still, his phone clutched in his hand like evidence. Mama, he said, and his voice had a quality I'd never heard before. Hollow. Adult. It's gone. I paused, coffee mug halfway to my lips. What's gone, baby? He held up his phone, the banking app open on the screen. Where there should have been numbers. His carefully saved $2,847. There was now a balance that made my heart stop. $23.16. The mug slipped from my fingers, shattering against the kitchen tile. Coffee splashed across my white nursing shoes, but I barely noticed. That has to be a mistake. A bank error or... I already called them. Micah's voice was eerily calm. The transfer happened 3 days ago. Authorization code matches Dad's phone number. 3 days ago. While I was working a double shift and Micah was supposedly asleep, someone had taken every cent he'd saved for that camp. Someone with access to his account information. Someone he trusted. Gerald chose that moment to walk into the kitchen, already dressed for work, whistling some tune I didn't recognize. He stopped when he saw us. Me crouched on the floor picking up coffee-stained pieces of ceramic, Micah standing like a statue with his phone screen still glowing. Morning, family, Gerald said, but his voice sounded forced. Artificial. Rough morning. I stood up slowly, broken mug pieces still in my palm. Gerald, we need to talk. Can it wait? I've got that big presentation today and…
No.
The word came out sharper than I intended. It cannot wait. For 2 days, I chased Gerald around that conversation. 2 days of him deflecting, making excuses, suddenly having urgent work calls whenever I tried to corner him. 2 days of watching Micah grow quieter and more watchful, like he was documenting every lie for some future reference. Finally, on Thursday evening, I'd had enough. I blocked the doorway as Gerald tried to leave for what he claimed was a networking dinner. "Sit down," I said. "Right now." "Sarah, I don't have time for…" "Sit down." The force in my voice surprised all of us. Gerald actually stepped backward, his keys jangling in his hand. Even Micah looked up from his laptop in the corner of the living room. "Our son's college fund is empty," I said, my voice deadly quiet. $3,000 gone. And you're the only one with access besides me. Gerald's face went through a series of expressions, surprise, confusion, then something that looked almost like relief. Like he was glad the game was finally over. "It's not what you think," he started, but I held up my hand. "Then what is it, Gerald? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you stole money from our 11-year-old son." That's when something in Gerald snapped. The careful facade he'd been maintaining for weeks crumbled, and what came out was ugly. "Stole? I provided that kid with everything. The computers, the monitors, the fancy software he's always begging for. He doesn't need $4,000 for some camp. He needs to learn that the world doesn't revolve around his little projects." His little projects? I could barely breathe. "Gerald, he's been saving that money for 2 years. Well, maybe if you weren't so busy playing supermom to our spoiled little hacker, you'd notice that this family has real expenses." Gerald's voice was getting louder, more desperate. "I needed that money for the business retreat, for networking, for opportunities that benefit all of us, not just his selfish little dreams." From the corner of my eye, I saw Micah close his laptop very slowly, very deliberately. "Business retreat," I repeated. "You mean the one where you're supposedly in Orlando this weekend?" Gerald's face flushed. "That's right." I pulled out my phone, opened Instagram, and turned the screen toward him. Then explained this. The photo was from an account called @VanessaVibes, a woman with long dark hair and a bright smile, holding a champagne glass against a backdrop of crystal blue ocean. The caption read, "Nothing beats sunset cocktails in the Bahamas. #living my best life, #not Orlando." But it wasn't just the location that mattered. It was the reflection in her sunglasses, a man's silhouette, clearly visible, holding up his own drink in a toast. Gerald went very, very still. "You want to try that again?" I asked. The explosion that followed was worse than I'd imagined. Years of resentment came pouring out. How he felt trapped, unappreciated, how he deserved better than our boring suburban life. How Vanessa understood his ambitions in ways I never could. She's an entrepreneur, Sarah. She's building something real, not just changing bedpans and wiping. "Dad." Gerald stopped mid-sentence. We both turned to look at Micah, who had stood up from his corner. "I need a new laptop charger," Micah said quietly. The old one stopped working. Gerald stared at him. "That's what you want to talk about right now? A charger?" Micah nodded.
"Yeah."
"I've got work to do." And without another word, he walked upstairs to his room, leaving Gerald and me in the wreckage of our kitchen, our marriage, and his childhood trust. That night, as Gerald slept on the couch, I heard the familiar sound of typing from upstairs. But this time, it sounded different. More focused, more determined, more dangerous. The silence that followed was suffocating. Gerald went to work each morning pretending nothing had happened, kissing my cheek with the same mechanical routine while scrolling through his phone. He'd replaced the stolen money in Micah's account. "See? Problem solved," he'd said, as if betrayal could be undone with a simple bank transfer. But Micah wasn't the same kid who discovered that empty account 2 weeks ago. He moved through the house like a ghost, polite but distant, answering questions with single words or quiet nods. The worst part was how he looked at Gerald now, not with anger or hurt, but with a kind of cold calculation I'd seen him use when debugging particularly stubborn code. "He's shutting down," I told my sister Linda during one of our phone calls. "I'm worried he's internalizing all of this." "Maybe he just needs time to process," she offered. Kids are resilient. But watching my son disappear into his room for 14 hours a day didn't feel like resilience. It felt like something else entirely. The typing never stopped. Day and night, that steady rhythm of keys clicking became the soundtrack of our fractured home. I'd bring him meals on trays, finding him hunched over multiple screens with lines of code scrolling past faster than I could follow. His desk had become mission control, notebooks filled with sketches, sticky notes covering every surface, empty energy drink cans lined up like soldiers. "Micah, honey, you need to take breaks," I'd say, setting down a sandwich he probably wouldn't eat. "Almost finished, Mama," he'd reply without looking away from the screen. "Just need to optimize the user interface." When I asked what he was working on, he'd give me vague answers about improving the game or fixing some bugs. But late at night, when I thought he was asleep, I could hear him on phone calls, quiet, professional conversations that sounded nothing like an 11-year-old talking to friends. Then came the afternoon that changed everything. I'd gotten home early from my shift, planning to surprise Micah with his favorite Chinese takeout. But as I climbed the stairs, I heard voices coming from his room. Not the casual chatter of kids playing online games. This sounded serious. Professional. I paused outside his door, takeout bags in hand, listening. "See the potential? Absolutely," a man's voice was saying through Micah's speakers. "The game mechanics are solid, the mythology integration is clever, but what really impressed us was the underlying code architecture. It's remarkably sophisticated for someone your age." "Thank you, Mr. Chen," Micah replied, and his voice had that same focused quality I'd noticed weeks ago. "I've been working on the user experience too. The game needs to feel intuitive even when the puzzles get complex." About that, another voice chimed in, younger, with a slight accent. "We ran some preliminary numbers on the beta version you sent us. You said it's been live for what, 3 weeks?" 22 days, Micah confirmed.
Right.
"Well, according to our analytics, you're sitting at 118,000 downloads. That's actually incredible for an independent release with zero marketing budget." My hands went numb. The takeout bags slipped, rustling as I caught them, but Micah was too focused to notice. "I've been optimizing the algorithm for viral sharing," he explained, as if discussing the weather. "Each level completion generates a unique puzzle code that players can share with friends. It creates natural network effects." "Smart kid," the first man, Mr. Chen, said with obvious admiration. "Very smart. We'd like to discuss potential partnership opportunities. Are your parents available to join this conversation?" There was a pause. "My mom's at work," Micah said carefully, "and my dad's busy with other projects." The way he said it made my chest tight. Even in this moment of apparent triumph, the wound Gerald had left was still bleeding. "Well, we'll need to involve them eventually," Mr. Chen continued. "But for now, tell us about your vision for Mazeguard's future. You mentioned having some big plans." Mazeguard. That's what he named it. "I do," Micah said, and something in his tone made me press closer to the door. "But I can't share all the details yet. Some features are still in development. Let's just say that the game is designed to teach players that actions have consequences, and that sometimes the people you trust most are the ones you need to watch closest." I heard typing, then Mr. Chen's voice again. "This latest update you pushed yesterday, the one with the new Betrayer storyline, it's getting incredible engagement. Players are calling it emotionally devastating and brutally realistic. Where did you draw inspiration for that particular narrative arc?" Another pause. "Longer this time. Personal research," Micah said finally. The call continued for another 20 minutes, with these Silicon Valley venture capitalists discussing revenue models and user acquisition strategies with my 11-year-old son like he was a seasoned entrepreneur. By the time I heard him saying goodbye, my head was spinning. I knocked softly and entered to find Micah swiveling around in his desk chair, looking remarkably calm for someone who'd just been courted by tech investors. "Hey, Mama," he said, as if nothing extraordinary had just happened. "Chinese food." "Micah," I said slowly, setting the bags on his bed. "What exactly is Maze Guard?" He smiled, the first genuine smile I'd seen from him in weeks. "It's a game about solving puzzles when people lie to you, about finding the truth hidden in mazes. And 118,000 people have downloaded it." Actually, he checked his phone. It's 127,000 now. It's growing pretty fast. I stared at my son, this boy who looked like the same kid I'd tucked into bed 11 years ago, but who was speaking like someone I'd never met. "Micah, this is incredible, but..." "I know it sounds big," he interrupted gently. "But it's just the beginning, Mama. The real features aren't even active yet." There was something in his eyes when he said it, a gleam that was equal parts pride and something darker. Something that looked a lot like anticipation. "What real features?" I asked. But Micah had already turned back to his computer, fingers flying across the keyboard. "You'll see," he said. I should have pressed harder. Should have demanded answers about those real features Micah had mentioned so cryptically. But life has a way of distracting you from the storm brewing right under your nose, and I was drowning in the aftermath of Gerald's betrayal, working extra shifts to rebuild our emergency fund while trying to keep our family from completely falling apart. For 3 weeks, an uneasy peace settled over our house. Gerald continued his charade of normalcy, bringing home flowers, suggesting family movie nights, acting like the perfect husband except for the way his phone buzzed constantly with messages he'd angle away from view. Micah remained polite but distant, spending his days in his room with Maze Guard, which had apparently exploded to over 300,000 downloads. It's featured on some gaming vlogs now, he told me over dinner one evening, pushing pasta around his plate. People are calling it surprisingly deep for an indie game. Gerald barely looked up from his own phone. "That's nice, buddy." The dismissal in his voice made my jaw clench, but Micah just nodded and excused himself to return to his room. If Gerald had been paying any attention at all, he might have noticed the way our son's eyes lingered on him, studying, cataloging, planning. It was a Tuesday morning in late August when Gerald's carefully constructed world came crashing down. I was at the hospital, 3 hours into what was supposed to be a routine shift, when my phone started buzzing with frantic calls from Gerald's office. Then texts. Then more calls from numbers I didn't recognize. "Mrs. Henderson?" The voice belonged to Patricia, Gerald's assistant, and she sounded panicked. "You need to get down here right now. Something's happened to the company website." "What kind of something?" I asked, already grabbing my purse and heading for the elevator. It's been hacked. The whole site is down and there's a message. Gerald's locked himself in his office and isn't taking calls." I broke every speed limit getting to Finance Flow Solutions, Gerald's small but successful startup that provided online financial platforms for local businesses. The parking lot was chaos, employees standing around in clusters, some crying, others frantically making phone calls. Through the lobby windows, I could see the usually calm reception area buzzing with activity. Patricia met me at the elevator, her face pale. It happened around 9 a.m. 1 minute everything was normal, the next, she trailed off, shaking her head. "Show me," I said. She led me to her desk where her computer screen displayed what should have been Finance Flow's professional homepage. Instead, there was nothing but black. Pure digital black, like staring into a void. And in the center, in stark white letters, a message that made my blood run cold. Loyalty matters. So does theft, especially from your own blood. But it was what came next that truly stopped my heart. Below the main message, in smaller text, a line that seemed to pulse with its own malevolent life. "I only date men who know how to keep secrets or pay for them." I recognized those words. Not because I'd heard them before, but because they carried the weight of intimacy, the kind of inside joke that exists only between two people who think they're being clever. The kind of reference that would mean nothing to the world, but everything to the person it was meant to destroy. "How long has it been like this?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "For hours," Patricia said. We've called 3 different IT companies, but no one can get past whatever security measures the hacker put in place. It's like the website is locked from the inside. Gerald's office door was closed, but I could hear him through the thin walls, shouting into his phone, then periods of horrible silence, then more shouting. I knocked once and walked in without waiting for permission. He looked terrible. His usually perfect hair was disheveled, his tie loosened, and there were stress sweat stains on his shirt despite the office air conditioning. His computer screen showed the same black void as Patricia's, but he was staring at his phone instead, his face a mask of panic and rage. "Gerald," I said quietly. He looked up, and for a moment, I saw something I'd never seen before in 15 years of marriage: genuine fear. "It's not what it looks like," he said automatically, but his voice cracked on the words. "Isn't it?" I moved closer to his desk, reading the message again. "Because it looks like someone knows about Vanessa. Someone who knows enough about your relationship to quote her private social media posts." Gerald's face went white. "How do you?" "The Instagram story she deleted last month," I continued, surprised by how calm my own voice sounded. "The one where she was talking about men who keep secrets or pay for them. I saw it before she took it down. Funny how that exact phrase ended up on your company's homepage, don't you think?" Gerald stared at me, then at his computer screen, then back at me. You think I did this? That I hacked my own company?" "No," I said slowly, pieces clicking into place in my mind. "No, I don't think you did this at all." That's when my phone buzzed with a text from Micah. "Home early today. Making spaghetti for dinner. Love you, Mama." Innocent words. Normal words. Except for the timestamp. The message had been sent at 9:03 a.m. 3 minutes after Finance Flow's website had gone dark. I looked at Gerald, who was frantically trying to call Vanessa again, his hands shaking as her voicemail picked up for what was probably the 20th time that day. She wasn't answering. Smart woman. When someone exposes your secrets to the world, the last thing you want is a paper trail connecting you to the chaos. "Gerald," I said, and something in my tone made him stop dialing. "I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest." He nodded, looking desperate. "Besides you and me, who else has access to Micah's computer setup? Who else knows about his coding skills?" Gerald's face went through a series of expressions: confusion, realization, then something that looked like terror. "He wouldn't," Gerald whispered. "He's just a kid. He wouldn't know how to." "Wouldn't know how to what?" I asked, though I was pretty sure I already knew the answer. How to hack a website. How to research someone's social media history. How to plan the kind of revenge that would destroy both your business and your relationship in one perfectly timed strike. Gerald's phone buzzed with another call. The screen showed Vanessa for a split second before going dark. She'd hung up the moment he answered. That's when we both knew. This wasn't random. This wasn't some disgruntled employee or competitor trying to hurt Finance Flow. This was personal. This was surgical. This was an 11-year-old boy who'd learned that the adults in his life couldn't be trusted, so he decided to teach them what consequences looked like. And he was just getting started. The destruction was swift and merciless, like watching a controlled demolition in slow motion. Within hours of the hack going public, Finance Flow Solutions phones were ringing nonstop, not with new business, but with existing clients demanding answers, threatening lawsuits, and pulling their accounts. Gerald spent the first day in damage control mode, spinning stories about external security breaches and rogue hackers targeting small businesses. But the message on the website was too personal, too specific. Everyone could see this wasn't random cybercrime. This was someone with intimate knowledge of Gerald's private life, and that made clients nervous about what other secrets might be lurking in Finance Flow systems. By Wednesday, 3 major accounts had terminated their contracts. By Friday, 2 more had followed, taking with them nearly 60% of the company's revenue. The local business journal picked up the story, running a piece titled, "When Personal Drama Becomes Professional Disaster." I watched Gerald unravel from the kitchen table where I sat with my laptop, pretending to review patient charts while actually researching everything I could find about cybersecurity and website hacking. What I learned made my stomach turn. The sophistication required to penetrate finance flow security, embed an untraceable message, and lock out their entire IT department would have challenged professional hackers. The fact that an 11-year-old had pulled it off was either impossible or terrifying. Given what I knew about my son, I was leaning toward terrifying. "The board wants to meet Monday," Gerald said, slumping into the chair across from me. His tie was crooked, his shirt wrinkled, and he looked like he'd aged 5 years in 5 days. "They're talking about bringing in an interim CEO while they assess the situation." "What are you going to tell them?" I asked, not looking up from my screen. "The truth. That we were targeted by a sophisticated cybercriminal who somehow gained access to private information." His voice was hollow, defeated. "What else can I say?" From upstairs came the familiar sound of typing, steady, relentless, never-ending. Gerald's eyes drifted toward the ceiling, and for a moment, something like suspicion flickered across his face. "You don't think," he started, then shook his head.
No.
"That's crazy." "What's crazy?" I asked, though I knew exactly what he was thinking. "Nothing. Just." Micah's been awfully quiet about all this. Most kids would be asking questions, wanting to know why Daddy's so upset. I closed my laptop and looked at my husband, really looked at him. "Maybe he already knows why you're upset, Gerald. Maybe he's known for a while." That Sunday, Gerald's phone rang at 6 a.m. I heard him answer it in the guest bedroom where he'd been sleeping since the hack, his voice instantly alert despite the early hour. "What do you mean, gone?" His voice carried through the thin walls. "She can't just be gone. People don't just disappear." I found him 20 minutes later, sitting on the edge of the bed with his head in his hands, phone discarded beside him. "Vanessa?" I asked. He nodded without looking up. "Her neighbor says she loaded up a U-Haul yesterday. Didn't say where she was going. Won't answer calls, texts, emails. It's like she just vanished." Smart woman, I thought. When the ship starts sinking, the rats are always first to abandon it. Maybe she's scared, I offered, though I felt no sympathy for either of them. Having your private business exposed like that. "She knew," Gerald interrupted, finally looking up at me. "When I called her Tuesday, right after the hack, she knew exactly what message was on the website before I told her. She said the words along with me, Sarah. How does someone do that unless they've already seen it?" I said nothing, but my mind was racing. Vanessa had seen the message because she'd been watching, because she'd known something was coming. The question was, how? Monday's board meeting lasted 4 hours. Gerald came home looking like a ghost, carrying a cardboard box with his personal items from the office. "Suspended pending investigation," he said, setting the box on the kitchen counter. "They're bringing in a crisis management firm to rebuild the client base and assess the security breach. Insurance might not cover the losses since they're claiming it was an inside job." "Is it?" I asked. "An inside job?" Gerald stared at me for a long moment. "I don't know anymore. I don't know anything anymore." That evening, I found Micah in his room, but he wasn't at his computer for once. Instead, he was sitting cross-legged on his bed, talking quietly into his phone. I caught fragments of the conversation through the cracked door. "Pleased with the user engagement metrics. The viral coefficient is exceeding our projections. Discussing series of funding, but I want to keep the company's structure simple for now. MIT's Youth Incubator Program? Yes, I got the email. The application deadline is..." I knocked softly and pushed the door open. Micah looked up, completely calm, completely composed. "Hold on just a second," he said into the phone, then covered the microphone. "Hey, Mama. What's up?" "Who are you talking to, sweetheart?" "Representatives from the MIT program. They want to discuss Maysguard's success metrics and my application for their summer intensive." He said it like it was the most natural thing in the world. The game hit 500,000 downloads yesterday. 500,000. While his father's company was collapsing, while Gerald was being forced out of his own business, while Vanessa was fleeing to whatever corner of the country felt safe enough, my son was building an empire. "That's wonderful, Micah," I said and meant it. "I'm proud of you." He smiled, not the calculated expression I'd grown used to seeing, but something genuine and warm. Thanks, Mama. I'm going to be okay. We're going to be okay. As I turned to leave, I heard him resume his conversation. Sorry about that. Yes, I'm very interested in the program. And yes, I have several new features planned for Maze Guard's next update. The game is designed to teach players that actions have consequences, and I think there are still some important lessons to explore. I paused in the hallway, listening to my 11-year-old son discuss business strategy with MIT representatives while his father's world crumbled downstairs. Gerald had taught Micah a lesson about betrayal, about what happens when the people you trust most hurt you. But I don't think Gerald realized what kind of student he was dealing with. My son didn't just learn lessons. He perfected them. Gerald moved out on a Thursday in September, claiming he needed space to get his head straight and figure out his next steps. He said it like he was doing us a favor, like his absence would somehow heal the wounds he'd carved into our family. I didn't beg him to stay, didn't even argue. Instead, I helped him pack his clothes into the same suitcases he'd used for his business retreat to the Bahamas, watching him fold the shirts Vanessa had probably seen him wear, and felt nothing but relief. This isn't permanent, he said, standing in our bedroom doorway with his final box. I just need time to rebuild, to figure out what went wrong with the company. I know exactly what went wrong with the company, I replied, not looking up from the patient files I was reviewing. The question is whether you'll ever be honest enough to admit it. He opened his mouth to argue, then seemed to deflate. Gerald. I finally looked at him. This man I'd built a life with, who'd thrown it all away for champagne sunsets and someone else's validation. Just go. After his car pulled out of the driveway, the house felt different. Lighter. Like we could finally breathe again. Micah emerged from his room that evening, laptop under his arm, and settled beside me on the couch for the first time in months. You okay, Mama? He asked, and I heard echoes of the little boy who used to curl up next to me during thunderstorms. I'm okay, I said, and realized I meant it. How are you doing with all this? He considered the question seriously, the way he approached everything. I think Dad needed to learn that actions have consequences. That you can't hurt people and expect them to just accept it. And you think what happened to his company taught him that? Micah looked at me with those dark eyes that saw too much, understood too much. I think what happened to his company taught everyone that betrayal has a price. That even when people think they're getting away with something, someone's always watching, always learning. The next morning brought a phone call that changed everything. Micah answered it in his room, and I could hear the excitement in his voice even through the closed door. 20 minutes later, he came bounding down the stairs with an energy I hadn't seen since before Gerald's betrayal. Mama, you're not going to believe this, he said, practically vibrating with joy. MIT waived the program fee. All of it. $4,000. I set down my coffee cup, staring at him. They what? The Youth Incubator Program. They said they'd never seen a kid build something with such clean logic, layered storytelling, and innovative problem-solving approaches. He grinned, and it was pure sunshine. They want me to present Maze Guard as a case study to other participants. $4,000. The exact amount Gerald had stolen from his savings account. The universe, it seemed, had a sense of poetic justice. There's more, Micah continued, bouncing slightly on his toes. 3 different venture capital firms want to discuss licensing deals for Maze Guard's core engine. They think the game mechanics could be adapted for educational software, corporate training programs, even therapy applications. I pulled him into a hug, this brilliant boy who'd turned his pain into purpose, his betrayal into breakthrough. I'm so proud of you, sweetheart. So incredibly proud. That afternoon, we drove to the bank to set up a proper business savings account for Micah's growing enterprise. As we sat across from the financial advisor, listening to her explain investment options and tax implications, I marveled at how surreal it all felt. 6 months ago, I'd been worried about saving enough for a family vacation. Now I was discussing my 11-year-old startup revenue projections. Maze Guard's success is really quite remarkable, the advisor said, reviewing Micah's financial statements. Over 800,000 downloads, consistent user engagement, and multiple revenue streams. You've built something genuinely sustainable here. Micah nodded seriously. The key was understanding that people want to feel smart when they solve problems. But they also want to feel like the problems matter, like solving them teaches them something important about the world. On the drive home, I asked the question that had been nagging at me for weeks. Micah, what you built with May's Guard. It's incredible. But I need to know, did you plan for it to teach your father a lesson too? He was quiet for a long moment, watching the familiar streets of our neighborhood roll past the car window. I planned for it to teach everyone a lesson, he said finally. That loyalty matters. That trust is earned, not given. That when someone betrays you, you have choices about how to respond. And what choice did you make? He turned to look at me, and his expression was peaceful, resolved. I chose to build something better than what was broken. I chose to turn betrayal into something that could help other people solve their own puzzles. That evening, as I tucked him into bed, a ritual we'd somehow maintained despite everything, Micah said something that will stay with me forever. Mama, I used to think being strong meant never letting anyone hurt you. But that's not really possible, is it? People you trust will disappoint you sometimes.
No, sweetheart.
It's not possible to avoid all pain. So real strength isn't about avoiding hurt, he continued thoughtfully. It's about what you choose to build after someone breaks something important to you. Whether you use the pieces to cut other people or to create something new. I kissed his forehead. This boy who'd learned lessons no child should have to learn, and who'd somehow emerged wiser and kinder rather than bitter. What are you going to build next? I asked. He smiled in the darkness. Something even better. Something that helps people find their way through impossible places and teaches them they're stronger than they think. Outside, the neighborhood was quiet, peaceful. Gerald was somewhere else, probably still trying to figure out what had hit him. Vanessa was building a new life in whatever city felt safe enough to hide in. But in this house, in this room, my son was dreaming about his next creation. And I knew, with absolute certainty, that whatever he built would be extraordinary. Because Micah hadn't just learned that betrayal has consequences. He'd learned that healing is a choice, that brilliance can be born from pain, and that sometimes the best revenge is building something so beautiful, so successful, so undeniably yours that the people who tried to break you become irrelevant to your story. That's what real strength looks like. Not the absence of scars, but the decision to turn them into something that lights the way for others.